Canadian businesses and investors, of course, still trying to figure out really what's going to happen when it comes to those Trump tariffs. While the president has at least paused them for now, there is a fear that they will ultimately happen, and that uncertainty has left a chill on the Canadian economy. So to talk more about the challenges facing businesses here is Paul Ashworth. He is the chief North American economist at Capital Economics. Paul, I appreciate the time this morning. You know, the uncertainty around Donald Trump sort of pushing pause, but kind of being very vague about whether they'll come in at all. What does that do to potential investment in this country? Would any business outside Canada say, hey, that's a smart place to put my money now?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a problem. Uncertainty is always a problem with investment. And so the longer this uncertainty goes on, the more damage it can be for Canada's economy.
The fact that Trump has paused them, Paul, even just temporarily here, does that give any glimmer of hope to investors? I mean, you take a look at, North America and the markets themselves, or does it put Canada in an even weaker position? I mean, we already know the giant south of us that is, the United States, the world's biggest economy. How much weaker are we now with what's gone on in the last week?
I mean, I don't think it's a disaster if it just lasts for a month or so, but I think the danger is this could drag on with extension after extension, and this threat of tariffs hanging over Canada for an extended period of time until we eventually end up completely renegotiating the USMCA deal.
What do you think is the industry right now, Paul, that's under the biggest threat on our side of the border?
Manufacturing has got to be the key one, I think. I mean, that's obviously the one that Donald Trump is targeting for jobs to be pushed back into the US. Obviously, we didn't see any exemptions for the very integrated automotive sector in these tariff threats. So I'd say manufacturing is the big risk, which is obviously a big deal for Ontario.
Mm-hmm. And Paul, it's pretty clear this week that what sort of happened at the sort of 11th hour almost is that Donald Trump kind of realized what the impact might be on the states based on what happened in the markets there and seemed to change his mind also based on what Canada sort of came to the table with. Does that give you any faith, the fact that maybe Americans or even the president himself are waking up to the reality that tariffs and then a tariff war is almost a no-win situation?
Yeah, I mean, it's down to Donald Trump's unpredictable nature. I think he often changes his mind. I mean, there are no winners in a trade war. We know that. And I suspect that Donald Trump, as it became clear to Republican politicians, Donald Trump was going to push ahead with this, that there was a real danger, particularly for certain states, New York State, and obviously all the other states that border Canada, would suffer unduly. And so, those politicians began to apply pressure. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, that pressure came with a positive result for Canada, albeit only a delay rather than clearing us out from under this threat completely.
Right. And so, Paul, before I let you go, we've got this summit happening, today in Toronto. What do you think the markets and investors need to hear coming out of that to sort of reassure people about Canada's confidence and strength?
Well, I'm not sure we can get anything today that will really clear the threat. But obviously, we'd like to see barriers for interprovincial trade removed. Mm-hmm. We'd like to see large-scale investment, particularly in oil and gas, to build new pipelines and open up new export markets, new LNG export terminals for natural gas. So, these sorts of big investment plans would really help. But of course, it's going to take quite some time to put them together. And that's a 5 to 10 year plan rather than a 1 to 2 month plan.
Yeah, it's not something you can flip a switch on. Okay, Paul Ashworth from Capital Economics. Appreciate the time this morning. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.